Howdy folks, welcome to the channel Rockin' the Country. I'm Don. I have a gift request from Jersey John O'Dowd. Makes me so proud because I'm a Jersey boy myself. Been here my whole life except for 2 years when I was in Florida taking care of my mother. And I love other parts of the country. I'll be moving somewhere at some point, no question about it. But I have a gift request here from John, Jersey John, Billy Burnette. The bigger the love, the harder the fall. I can attest to this. Just the title alone. Now, I don't know how he's going to flesh this thing out. I kind of have an idea. I wouldn't be surprised if piano doesn't show up in this song. But John said this. Billy recorded several country music albums in the 1980s and 90s for Polydor, Columbia, and MCA. And he was even a member of Fleetwood Mac for a while. Don, I hope you and your listeners will enjoy the song. Best wishes, Jersey John. There you go. And interesting timing, too, because I was just looking for a song by Fleetwood Mac. And I thought about doing Songbird, but I'd already done it, it turns out. And so every so often I look for a song for my Country Heart series. And I think I grabbed a Neil Young song because Neil is really folk. But I don't know Billy's stuff. And you may have noticed the hat, John and others. My New Jersey hat. All right, here we go. The bigger the love, the harder the fall. Little piano.
There goes my baby walking out the door. I never cried a bigger tear before.
I just did Ruby by Kenny Rogers, the prior song. Different context. That was set in war and he was paralyzed and she's going out on the town for the 100th time. And in this one, but she's leaving too. Ay, ay, ay. Life's hard on planet Earth.
You don't know till it breaks how much a heart can take.
Yeah.
You don't know pain until it burns inside. I should have picked I love my own size. How could a love so strong turn out to be so wrong, so wrong? The bigger the love, the harder the fall. And I lost your sweet love, baby. I lost it all. I never hit the ground until you shot me down. The bigger the love, the harder the fall.
That's just a fact. That's the way it works. The deeper you go in, the harder it is to come out.
If I had known you'd be too much for me, I would have kept you as my fantasy. To get you off my mind, I'm gonna need some time. A whole
like that.
lot of time. The bigger the love, the harder the fall. I lost your precious love. I lost it all. I never hit the ground until you shot me down. The bigger the love, the harder the fall. The bigger the
I'm curious to see how many of you folks remember this song. I didn't know it. This this could have almost also been like a crossover where it could, if this was played. I wonder if this was played on like a soft rock station, how it would have been received. I wonder if people would have knocked it for being too country. It had elements of both. I really did like that perspective, though. That line. This is how I heard the line about I would have kept you as my fantasy. I think, like, had I known what I'd experienced along those lines, I would have kept you as my fantasy. And the way I heard that line was that I wouldn't have pursued you in reality. I just would have kept you as my fantasy girl. And it is, I know this not only from working with people professionally as a life coach, but I know this just from common sense, where everybody on planet Earth is dealing with issues. We have our fantasy people, it might be like Scarlett Johansson, or for girls, I don't know, it could be like Keith Urban or whomever, movie stars. Brad Pitt's always referenced and all this stuff. And you've got these like dreams of this person, and you kind of have this fantasy of what it would be like to be with them. And then you get with them and you find out that they're just people. I mean, they have these careers, everybody knows them and all this stuff, and famous actresses and actors and athletes and all this. But then you find out that they're like, you still have to navigate the waters of the relationship. And the reason I really like that line about the fantasy is like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes it's best just to keep somebody as that fantasy, because when you meet them in reality, they don't live up to what you had built them up to be in your mind. Sure, you can go side stage at one of their concerts. Let's say you land one of these major superstars, and now you're going to go to a show of theirs, and you're going to be side stage. And there's your husband, there's your boyfriend, there's your wife, there's your girlfriend out there on stage. And you have this very exciting couple of hours and all this stuff, and you're the one that is with that person that everybody wants, right? But then you have to drive home, and then you got to talk. And you got to have things to talk about. You're not only going to talk about the show, and you're going to get into the nitty-gritty of life. And there's hardships, and there's insensitivities, there's sensitivities, there's all these things you got to deal with. That's how I took that line about keeping somebody as a fantasy. Sometimes, it's like when you meet your heroes, you find out that they're not as heroic as you thought. I love it when you see people on TV who had just, like on the news, and somebody just rescued somebody from a collapsing building or a car fire on the side of the road. And they refer to them as a hero, or somebody jumped in front of a bullet for someone, and they got shot in the shoulder, but it saved those students or that person or whatever. And I love it and they're like, they'll be interviewed and they'll be like, how does it feel to be a hero? And they'll be like, I'm not a hero. I was just doing my job. If say they're a cop, or I just reacted. There's nothing heroic, but we consider their actions as hero. And oh my God, they're amazing. They're always like that. It's like, no, they just reacted in the moment. And I love it when they're honest about that, because even though we're very appreciative that they saved somebody or what have you, and we're like, wow, that is awesome. The bottom line is they reacted in the moment. That was their moment. It was very, very beneficial to somebody, hurtful to themselves, self-sacrificing, but they're still just a person, and they'll tell you that I'm just me. and so fantasies are just that. They're fantasies. And this was an interesting song, though, John. This was very interesting. I like the way he sang it. I don't know what they were going for in that era. I know there's the transitional period away from traditional country into contemporary, more rock-based stuff. And this reminded me of so almost like a halfway house to that. And I think you said it was 80s and 90s. Let me look. Yeah, it makes sense. 80s and 90s. That was sort of when things were transitioning, and Billy Ray Cyrus and Garth Brooks and others were sort of making the move. Well, they weren't making the move per se. The label heads were making the move into more rock-based stuff, and now we have today's. But all right, I'll rate this song, and the number that popped into my head was an 8.6, and I can tell you what it was based on. It was the way he sang what he was singing. The instrumentation I wasn't crazy about, but I like the way he sang it. I wonder what else he has. I wonder if, yeah, I'm curious. Because he does have a very listenable voice and delivery. But that one line, I'm going to be using that line in the future, John, about the fantasy thing. It just sometimes just keep things as a fantasy and as a dream, because they'll come crashing down too, just like his love in this thing, which he shot him down. It's just true. But love all the way, you know. You're still going to love, try loving deeply, and risk getting hurt, because there's a risk. You may hurt somebody else too. So everybody suffers that. Everybody endures risk. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. From Jersey, John O'Dowd, right here in Jersey. Have a great day. I'll see you on another video, and keep rocking the country.
If I had known you'd be too much for me, I would have kept you as my fantasy.